Brought to you by Telehelping, a virtual assistant staffing company for professionals.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cody Hall, the host of The Faces, Entrepreneurs Are People Too, and the founding CEO of Telehelping, a virtual staffing organization, and the herein sponsor of this podcast. So I appreciate you so much, Telehelping, for allowing me the opportunity to talk to great people like Tanya. Tanya, how are you today?
Hey, Cody, I'm really good, enjoying the summer. So thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
As am I. As am I. Very happy to say that I was up this morning and watched the sunrise and did some surfing a little bit early this morning, which is why my board's not in the corner of my podcast booth today. So it was like a really nice summer morning. So I'm excited for getting an early start on the weekend.
Yep.
Well, Tanya, before we run down any one path or another, I love taking an opportunity to allow you to tell us who we're chatting with today. Who's Tanya?
Sure. Um, well, I do go by Tanya. That's my kind of shortcut, but my official name is Tatyana, my Tatyana
Tatyana.
Gray Etkin. And I'm building a brand called Attorney Tatyana. So um, that is kind of the gist of it. And as it says, I'm an attorney, licensed attorney in the United States. I also I was born and raised in Russia, so long story short, immigrated to the United States, came to college. I studied computer science in college, got my degree in computer science, worked as a software developer for a little bit for a Fortune 500 company, went to law school, got my law degree, practiced in Utah, then was a stay-at-home mom for about a dozen years. And a couple of years ago, went back into law, and things have changed so much with after COVID, with everything being online, and just in general with social media and all of the other opportunities in the online world with AI. So I'm really trying to figure out how to practice law, not just in the traditional way, which I do. I run a law practice law firm called Summit Legacy Law, but also how to practice law in this brave new world that we're in. And so under the Attorney Tatyana brand, like I mentioned, I have my regular traditional law practice, and then I'm building this new vision business attorney.ai that is going to have um, templates for contracts and online community. So just still working on that, have this huge vision of how to make legal services just kind of congruent with our modern age. So that's a little bit about me.
That is, and so as much as I want to jump into my first question, which is how you went from software and like I'm gonna get a law degree one day.
Mhm.
That's an interesting question. When you're not pursuing this innovation in AI and towards making law accessible to so many people, what goes on in the rest of the world? Are you an avid hobbyist in any particular focus? Do you have family?
Yes, I have a family. I have two kids, biological kids. My son's 12 and my daughter is 6. And we're a blended family. So I have 3 other bonus kids. And my husband is in Christian ministry. And due to our circumstances, we bounce back between Boise, which is the capital of Idaho, and Sun Valley area, which is where I'm based. And so I usually laugh and say that we're a traveling circus. And um, but with that being said, again, our modern technology is allowing us to do that and have kind of a crazy, non-traditional type of life, um, and that that is fun, that is crazy, that is challenging, and building a business in the midst of that is some days is super exciting and some days is kind of frustrating. So entrepreneurial journey is it's not for the faint of heart. Um, and being in Idaho in the mountains, Sun Valley is known for its world-class ski resorts. So I love to
Okay.
ski, alpine, cross country, snowshoeing, in the summer, just getting out hiking. Yesterday we went to Redfish Lake, which is this huge alpine lake. So we do enjoy the outdoors here and kind of spoiled by that.
That's wonderful. And I think it's, one of the critical elements behind the Faces podcast is that we show our listeners, oftentimes younger entrepreneurs or not even pre-entrepreneurs, that you can be a human outside of your entrepreneurial passion, your entrepreneurial journey. I think all too often they say they want to make it seem like you only can be focused on your business and not have anything else, but here you are changing the way that we approach law, and also having not only a biological family but a blended family, which I will say I have a blended family as well. It was not that easy, still isn't that easy some days. So my teenage bonus daughter isn't always my biggest fan.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely throws new kind of challenges and
Right.
opportunities. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, so thank you so much for highlighting that personal side. Back to one of my original questions, which is, from software development to law. Um, was your law focus specifically in the software space, or is that what triggered that transition? Kind of what made you go from a good career to jumping into another educationally burdened career and then starting over from there? How did that go?
Yeah, so just I guess going back a little bit, when I first came to the United States, I had a family that sponsored me for my first year of college here. And the father of the family was a professor of computer science at the university where I went. And initially, I didn't have any particular inclination to go into computer science. I wanted to do humanities, which I think is pretty typical for a lot of people, some kind of soft degree. Uh, but just talking with him, and he gave me a little summer job, just getting into it that way. I found that I had natural affinity for things that were logical and methodical, and then my first job in college was actually a custodian, which after a week I said, I'm done doing this. What else can I do? And my next job in college was working at the university data center and customer support first. But again, I was in the environment where there were a lot of people who were working on computers and doing a lot of programming stuff. And that kind of whetted my interest to try the computer science path. And as I started taking classes, I really enjoyed them. And again, I have this natural inclination towards the logical and the orderly. Um, and by the time I graduated, it was 2002, and then the whole dot-com bubble was bursting, and I was just trying to think, well, what else can I do? And I was wondering, master's in computer science or business school or law school. And I figured if I go to law school and become a lawyer, I can always do business. But if I went to business school, then I probably would never go to law school and become a lawyer. So that
So, following your very logical reasoning to your logical selection of a very logical career. I love you can really see how your personality goes into explaining the transition between these two in a very logical way. So it's really great to see that.
so that's how I ended up in law school. And again, naturally, I loved the classes that were probably on the more boring side. Tax was and we had a year-long income tax class, which was my favorite class. I did the best in it. And business types of classes, transactional classes, were my favorite. I didn't really care for litigation. I don't know much about like criminal procedure. That really didn't interest me. I studied enough to get good grades, but kind of one ear in, one ear out, focused on really where my passion was. And then uh, did some summer jobs between different years of law school. Spent the summer with a firm called Baker McKenzie. They're a huge international firm. They have at least back then, they had an office in Moscow in Russia, which is where I'm from. So spent the summer doing my summer clerkship there. And then the next summer spent it with a firm called Davis Polk and Wardwell, which is again another huge firm. And they have an office in Menlo Park, which is Silicon Valley area. And again, there was a lot of tech, obviously, tech community. So it seems like I was always coming back to like business and tech. And
You
so
kind of
after,
bouncing between the two, right?
yes, yes. And the work was loved the work, loved the substance of it, but I ended up coming back to Utah and just working in Utah for bigger law firms there, doing a lot of transactional work, still doing a lot of business, did some charitable estate planning, but again on the transactional side. And so after I decided to go back into law again, since my kids are a little bit older, that is where I went again with the kind of transactional business, estate planning practice.
No, that is such an interesting path. And it's so funny that you're the third person I feel like in a row who either had lived in Utah or lives in Utah currently. Gentleman that just talked to her this week lives right there in Saratoga Springs, south of the valley, which is where my brother lives. And so,
Okay, okay, I know it
so,
well, yeah.
so it says it. Well, Tatiana, it's I love that you have such an interesting logical path, and which is funny because I have a very logically driven brain as well. It's problematic because my wife lives up here in the clouds sometimes, and I'm like, but two plus two doesn't equal nine, and what are you talking about? And so when you're thinking about your approach back into law, what made you want to kind of do this Tatyana branded law, this AI accessible kind of database that you spoke to me about?
Yes, like I said, when I went back, I just did it very traditional way.
Yeah,
Started a law practice and did some local presentations, word of mouth, and started getting local clients. But because we are in this remote ski town area, it is pretty limiting that way on
yeah,
one end. So my pool of potential clients is limited if I stay with that model. And on the other hand as well, just lost my train of thought. Then when I got married and like my husband is in Boise, which is the capital, and we started kind of bouncing back and forth, it opened up a bigger pool of clients for me. And it seems like some of my clients were asking for more of this business type of work. So that was naturally kind of leaning that way. And with selling traditional law practice, you sell your hours. It's billable
yeah.
hour, which I think everybody dislikes billable hour, attorneys as well as the clients. Um, and it's not scalable. It's just there's only so much time that we can all sell, and I know that my time is pretty limited trying to raise a huge family. And so I was just trying to think of how can I scale legal services, um, without raising my prices through the roof, and just to serve more people, because with that comes the limitation of on being able to only sell so much time. I can serve only so few clients. And so just reading a lot of books on business, listening to podcasts. And I'm sure you and your listeners know Hormozy and Dan Martell. So listening to people like that and just absorbing their ideas and trying to figure out, well, how can I take that and what can I do as an attorney so I can separate from the billable hour, scale, serve more people.
Correct. It's interesting you say that because um, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of work with Andrew Hermosi's like acquisition.com. And
Mhm.
so I've done several events at their location with them in Las Vegas, and it's been a really rewarding thing. And while I was working there, much like some of the other consultants, I had the opportunity to brush shoulders with him as he was chatting with a lot of coaches. We're talking about like business coaches. And what I at the time I was playing around with the idea of coaching, because I was like, I know a lot of things about elements that people seem to be get snagged up on in business, and like I should definitely do this. But then I asked myself, much like you're talking about billable time, it's like, well, you could only sell as much of that as you have, right? Is what he was explaining to these folks, and a lot of these people in this seminar were, very successful coaches running $1 to $3 million a year coaching businesses. And they're like, you can't do more than you're already doing. So how do you take it from 3 million to 15 million? Right. And that's where the idea, I stopped thinking when he said that. He said this term, he's like, you just need to figure out how to scale yourself. And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about scaling yourself. He was speaking about, digital recorded courses and playbooks that you can, turn into digital assets and recording assets, which is the direction I went, and still rolling with a project that I'm working on over the past year. But you did this with Tatyana Law, the brand. So what is it providing people?
Yes. So this is still the beginning stages for me, and it's evolving. The personal brand is really, like I said, encompasses the traditional law practice, and then this new business attorney.ai, which going back to how I'm built. And I think it's important for entrepreneurs is to really understand who you are, and know your strengths and weaknesses, and we hear it so much, and it can just feel like whatever, heard that 100 times, but really work with the grain, not against the grain. So for me, knowing who I am, knowing that I love the methodology and systems and really detail oriented. So what would bother me when you come to a traditional attorney's website or a law firm website, usually you see these practice areas, but it's disjointed. It's like, well, how do you know which practice area, which of these attorneys do you need to call? It's very disjointed. So as I am evolving and trying to make this service more accessible and more holistic and turn it into a system, so I came up with, I don't know, I don't have the greatest name. I'm calling it the legal protection system right now. And it is a hexagon, so it has 6 sides, and these are kind of the pillars or the wedges, really. And it starts at the top of it is the legal audit, because you have to know where you are before you can get anywhere. And so
Absolutely.
part of this system as the legal audit, I always want to know with my clients, where are you before we go anywhere? Like, where are we starting from? So, and then there are 5 other areas in this framework that every business really needs to focus on. And we have entity and ownership, and we have compliance and data, which is absolutely important, and revenue and monetization, team and operations, and intellectual property. And so when I have an entrepreneur come to me with these kind of the new vision of how to provide legal services, we have this framework, and we work within this framework. We do a legal audit, then we address these other 5 areas, and then come back to the legal audit. So this is not one and done, because every business is evolving and growing, and the needs are changing. So it is a constant process. But because I'm a visual person as well, to me, it really helps to see this as a cohesive system, not just, oh, these are our practice areas, like pick your poison. Um, and within that system, the legal audit kind of gears towards each of these 5 areas. And then we start seeing where are the gaps and how do we fill the gaps. So that is one part of the system. And then to fill the gaps, a lot of it is done legally with contracts. And I'm working on creating a modern way of delivering legal templates. I think everybody knows LegalZoom. I'm not sure. I think there's Law Pay or some Law Clerk. There are a few other ones that people probably recognize, but LegalZoom is probably the biggest. And we think, well, we go there, we buy a document, and then we cut and paste. And that is the traditional way how legal templates have been delivered. But there is a move within the legal industry to use more automations. And so I'm working on the automations, but I see that these automations are pretty static, and the future is going to be um, and AI agents. And so my vision is that there will be these intake agents. In law, we usually call it intake when you do your interview with the clients. So you would have a dynamic intake agent that can be a chat bot or maybe a video bot of some sort that can adjust to the customer and ask them follow-up questions that are appropriate. And then that agent would pass the information on to the document drafting agent, and that would be prompted by an attorney. There will be an attorney, at least the way I see it, it has to be an attorney on the back side of it with prompting and make sure that that agent does everything in compliance, and then would be reviewed by the attorney and can be, and ultimately output to the client. So I think I see it as a future of these legal templates where we're going to move away from kind of legal Zoom cut and paste to AI agent working through a lot of the process, and at the end you will have the attorney putting their stamp of approval on it. And we'll see if it will get there or not, but that is kind of how I'm excited about that.
Have you heard of something called Parallax?
I have not heard of Parallax. No, I will
So
check it out.
when you see our description, Parallax actually sponsors all of our legal focused podcasts. And
Okay.
so not only are they one of our clients, but the owner was one of our very early episode guests. And he is in a sense pioneering a similar model that you have as well. His is a little bit more human oriented towards the end. It has lawyers on the back end as well. You should take a look at it. It's a very interesting system. It's something we use here at Telehelping. It is a preferred partner to our telehelping clients as well for drafting legal documents. But it's like the earlier stage. I feel like he is the TiVo to Netflix. So he's the TiVo to Netflix. And if you think about like when TiVo came out, where it was, and we thought how revolution, don't you TiVo that show? Oh my God, I missed it. Like now it's like I got all seasons right here in front of me, and it can change on a dime. And so I love the model. I love the idea of AI. I mean, I've been in AI now for close to 7 years. I was one of the pioneers in AI in healthcare with my healthcare organization, much like you are in legal. I was trying to figure out how to, nurses are expensive was my epiphany. I was like, nurses are expensive. And so nurses got a lot more expensive during COVID. And I was like, wow, I'm like, what is the nurse doing? They're using this manual. It's this huge manual, right? We're talking about law here, right? It's written somewhere, right? In law, somewhere, right? It's either, written law, case law, tort, so it's out there. But in this particular case, we're using a framework that was created by a doctor for triage. And I was thinking, like, why is this not an AI program? Like I just thought to myself, like, I'm like, we have large language models like that can scan this thing instantly and determine if what someone's saying is related to a topic here. And then we had, much like you were explaining, we had nurses say, oh, that's good. That's a good assessment of what this person is saying. Or no, that's a bad assessment. And then we had to hire triage that would look through it. And that saved me about when we launched about $100,000 a month in nurse salaries. But it was so much quicker because, like you're saying, you're like, these templates we use, we've really refined people down to a too simplistic. What you're saying is, you said something earlier that really like instantly hit with something I was experiencing. Was I had an Airbnb related legal matter, and I was like, who do I go to for an Airbnb legal matter? I didn't feel like a real estate attorney was appropriate. And it took so much work to find the right attorney for the issue. because everyone was just like real estate matter, real estate matter, right? And I think what you're saying is you're going to use AI to curate it to an individual circumstance. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a really great way to be unique in law, unique to your circumstance in law.
Yes, and on top of that, I love interacting with entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and that just energizes me. And so, in addition to that, I've started right now it's a free school community, and eventually I see it becoming a paid school community. Uh, what I see, what my particular, ideal client avatar, these are younger, usually males, but there are plenty of females as well. But they're usually younger. They're 20s, early 30s, and if I never went to law school, I would be pretty uneducated on a lot of the legal things, and so um, a lot of that is lacking a proper education. And then there are some great TikTok channels and Instagram channels, but they're often uh, misleading, or they're kind of like half truths. And then I've seen entrepreneurs grab onto them. And for example, S corp. When do you make an S corp election? I think there's so many TikToks and reels out there that don't give you a really good picture of it. And then I've run across entrepreneurs that filed an S election and they do nothing. They don't know, then oh, okay, they need to be on payroll. Like, hello. So I really want to have a place where entrepreneurs can come and get more systematized education, but not in a boring way, not like going to a lecture with a boring professor. So I aspire not to be a boring professor. And we'll see how it goes, I guess. But that is where I'm going with the community as well. I think it would be like, I want to share this. I have the passion to educate entrepreneurs. And I think if you're going to be in business, there's so many things that we need to learn as business owners. Like, I'm learning about marketing. That's a whole new world to me. I'm not really like, I'm not a marketer, but I'm learning like crazy. And so I think like accounting, I had to learn. I had a grasp, like a basic grasp in accounting, but I'm learning. I'm learning as my business is growing about the profit margins and um, accounts receivable. So I'm educating myself on that side that is kind of outside of my comfort zone. But we have to, as business owners, as we grow, we have to understand things like that. What's bottom line, what's top line, and
Yeah.
legal. What is the difference between being taxed as disregarded entity or being taxed as an S corp?
Well,
Why, you know,
that
why do you have a certain clause in your contracts? Like, how do you deal with dispute resolution? Do you want to arbitrate? Do you want to mediate? So I want to bring that through these communities down to the entrepreneurs and really give them resources, give them access to me. Um, and I
we're not so far off, you and I, in regards to what we do. We're doing it much different. You said something earlier. He says, I'm not a marketer. That's like, I hear that from so many of my initial clients when I first sit down with somebody and I say, I'm like, great, like, what are we talking about here today? And they'd be like, they either say they're not something or they say they're overwhelmed,
mm,
right? And the one that you said, like, I'm not a marketer, and I'm not a marketer either, right? Like, I have no idea how to video edit, right? There's not one part of me that knows how to create a reel or a short or any of that, right? And I can tell you what software they probably use because I see it come through my P&L on a cost. All right. And that's the only reason that's the only reason I know what it is. And that's what you're talking about, giving the tools to people so they can do it. I give people the people to do it.
mm,
And so it's such an interesting perspective because you're doing what I say is insulating the entrepreneur with an expertise around them that maybe they don't possess or don't understand. And allowing them to complete their mission, because entrepreneur, you can't be everything. You have a lot of experience, but like you said, you had to learn accounting, you're learning marketing, you're trying to like get all these expertise. Yeah. I'm like the cheat method. I don't know anything about marketing. I hire somebody. Like, I didn't know anything about accounting. I have an accounting team. I hire accountants. And
Yes,
so,
and I think it's important, but then um, you still have to understand it, right? If you hire an accountant, how do you know they're doing a
yeah,
good job? Um,
yeah. Well,
y-
you learn it though.
yeah,
I mean, I
you
can,
do, yeah.
yeah, I hired experts, and then when they explain things to me, and I'm like, "Well, I don't understand. Like, what explain this to me?" And then they break it down. They break it down. I probably, I mean, I have a master's in accounting. I could make a P&L, like, and so how you said it earlier. You said something criminal. You're like in one ear and out the other. That was me in my accounting classes. I was like, I'm just here to get a master's in accounting. I'm not going to be a CPA. I don't need to remember this. And so that was me as well. But it's the same thing like marketing. Like I know now enough to kind of question, the team. Like, oh, is this what we should be doing? Right. And like, oh, yeah, right. That's actually a good perspective. And I think it gives you like a newborn perspective on things, like a child's perspective, which can be profound when you're working with experts. And so you're like, should we do this? And so, yeah, you definitely should be learning through the process and having either someone guide you or teach you.
Yeah, and obviously, as a lawyer trying to sell legal services, I do believe that hire an expert, but at the same time, you have to understand as your business grows. And in my prior legal life, where I worked for big firms, and we had some big mergers or sales of companies, it gets overwhelming. And now working with entrepreneurs on the early end, but having that in mind that many of them want an exit at some point. And
Okay.
if you want an exit at some point, you have to start preparing now and thinking long term. But if you are doing that deal where you're selling your company, um, you have to know a lot, and not just legal, but whatever your core expertise, of course, but accounting, and having a conversation to why your business is valuable, knowing why it is valuable and understanding that. And that's, I think, where the education comes with it, because I don't want just give them a contract and say, this is the best contract, just sign on the dotted line. I want them to know why certain things are there, so next time, you know they will be more knowledgeable. They maybe will negotiate better deals for themselves. So the goal is to be that expert there, but also to empower them.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think that's, I work with so one of the things I've been working on for the past year is, we realize that the way we bring on people to our program at telehelping, we have a 95% placement accuracy, which means 95% of the people that we bring on and provide remote folks to end up staying with them at least 6 months, 95%. And so we're like, wow, like this really works. Like, how do we turn this into something where maybe you're just trying to take your staff remote? And so oftentimes reason we've had to create this method to begin with is because our 80% of our clients are first-time virtual assistant users. So they're entrepreneurs that are like, hey, I have this e-commerce business, or they're lawyers, a good chunk of them are lawyers, where they're sitting here like, I have a law practice and I have so many emails to respond to. I can't even, draft the document I'm supposed to be drafting, or I'm too busy drafting the document that I have to run off and go to court. So I'm working till midnight. And so everyone's trying to scale themselves all the way. And so likewise, I love working with the raw entrepreneur who's like in that phase of like, how do I get to this next step without it being the last step?
Yes, and I love this idea to scale yourself. And I'm sure you've seen articles popping up. When are we going to have a one person unicorn, basically, with all of the AI coming in? And there's a lot of talk that AI replacing employees. And so I'm excited for that. I'm trying to be very lean and run a lean operation here. I have some great people helping me here and there on the contract basis. So we'll see how it goes. Um, Again, I think that would be amazing to have that a one person unicorn, but at the same time, just being surrounded with people who are inspirational, who are on the ball, who are hungry. I think that's irreplaceable in a sense too.
We're lucky. My goal at telehelping is to, because we use a ton of automations, AI, and then I in a sense I have virtual staff members who I call employees. So because they work for the headquarters company. My goal is to maintain one person for every million in revenue. And
Mm.
so because we lean into so much automation, AI, and that excludes all the different virtual assistants because they are a service. That doesn't count
Yes. Mhm.
our headquarters team, because there's so much that can be done outside of the human that we've not leaned into before up until the past like 3 years. And I think that is such an incredible element. On the other side, though, uh, YouTube just announced that they're kind of taking a stance against AI and reproduction of videos and things. They're a huge organization to make this claim, and they stopped monetizing AI produced videos. And so they're no longer monetized. So if AI creates it, the creator's not making money for it. If you're reposting a video and polishing it anyway or changing it and altering it, it's not going to be monetized. Only original videos monetized now. And so that's kind of a huge stance in away from the artificially created media because, we're going to be going this direction and YouTube's not made for that. I think we're going to see the same thing with government. Speaking in the world of law, right? World of law and politics. I think that if there is too rapid of a development of technology that replaces people, you're going to see regulations that come in that protect jobs. Because while progress is great, all about progress, big forward thinker, if you make your entire population unemployed, you're going to have a lot of hungry people.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And we had here in the US recently, the Trump administration came out with this document, their AI vision, and there is a lot of desire to deregulate the AI in the United States, which again, on one hand, it's great because it would allow for more innovation and advancement. But I know that the courts in the United States are really getting into some interesting cases. And so that is, at least due to our system, we might be deregulated on that level, the administrative kind of level, but the court systems are full of cases, and we've had a few cases come through. Anthropic was a huge case that it was talking about inputs, that you cannot bring pirated books and input them into your AI for training. So we get case law on that. The Mid-Journey case, where Disney and a bunch of other actors are suing Mid-Journey for basically they don't want them to generate Mickey, and there's no license or anything going to Disney,
Correct.
right? So um, yeah, so there's some cases coming down through the system that still will impose a certain level of guardrails, if not regulation. And so interesting times. And I, as an attorney, I love the pace of it. It's things are changing fast. On the marketing side, it's like inexhaustible source of content, really. I just need to take better advantage of it. And the same for contracts. Just as an attorney, again, being fast, I think, is going to be important, because all of this case law, all of the regulation, rules, that needs to be incorporated into the contracts fast. And so if you're stuck in Word Perfect, some lawyers still are, and cut and paste, you won't be able to keep up with the times.
No, very well said. And I think that that's why, I'm so thrilled about, our partner Parallax and, your project is because I love ones that are trying to innovate what their industry focuses on to keep up with the times because law is slow. So it can be very slow, right? I have an ongoing lawsuit that's been 2 years running now. And so I'm the plaintiff, by the way. And so not getting sued, just for the record, everyone. Though I have been, and that's just business. It's something that needs to move really quick. And being that, I mean, that's the crazy thing. And one of our board members, who's a lawyer out of California, when AI started coming around in legal a couple years back, he said, Harry, he's like, man, we're just going to get hit with so many like AI generated lawsuits. Like it's so easy to like just generate a complaint letter,
Yeah.
and have someone sue you, and then you're trying to respond to all these AI things, and it's we live in a very interesting world. And I think that you're on the right path to catch the wave.
Yes, exactly. Just hoping that rising tide lifts all the boats, right? Just
Yeah,
being in the right boat and uh, with the currents. So it's yeah, exciting times. I'm excited to be in this area of AI entrepreneurship. I really feel at home from all of the other areas of the law that I've touched over the years. This really, for me, feels like, especially with my computer science background and being a developer, I feel like I can still relate to these kids, and it's
yeah.
crazy to say that, but gives me a little bit of what street cred. Like I used to be a developer at a Fortune 500 company, um, so
I
life
love it.
is unpredictable and interesting.
No, I agree. We probably have 10 or so AI clients now. One legal focus. We have an accountant focus one. I think we have one for every one of our major industry. And then we have some randoms, right? So because AI can get really random
Yeah,
sometimes. And just like you said with the rising tide, our thought process was like, I'd love to get on board with these organizations because for us, we don't know which one of these 10 could be a unicorn, right? And some of them vary from bootstrap startups all the way to we have someone who's on an E round and who does, 8 figures a year. And so, it's interesting to be a part of those ventures. And I'm excited, Tatyana, to see yours continue to develop and grow. Waste no time, fail quickly, and I'm looking forward to following the journey.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cody. This has been an exciting conversation, and really enjoyed getting to know you better, and just looking forward to watching what you guys keep doing into the future as well.
Thank you so much. Tatyana, take care. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
This video was brought to you by our official sponsor, Telehelping. Need support for your business? Telehelping connects you with top-tier remote staff to help you streamline operations and fuel growth. Go to telehelping.com and get started today.